And welcome back to the Hot Lap. What a weekend it's been, and ready for our race review. We're not going to get into the DQ of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. We've done that, I think, almost to death. There are previous videos if you look at it. So coming up in the show, well done Max Verstappen on his 50th, I believe, Grand Prix win. So we're getting into our winners and losers. We'll be having a look at the race result and that DQ and how it affects the championship. Ferrari's strategy, and to be honest, Mercedes wasn't much better, but particularly Leclerc's strategy, and addressing those seemingly boos for Verstappen. Or was it anybody else? But there we go. So let's get into this. But first of all, I would like to say a massive congratulations to Max Verstappen, who had a really, really difficult race, didn't he? He said it was incredible to claim his 50th Formula One victory in the United States Grand Prix, a result that came after the champion struggled with brakes throughout the race. And he did good. He did not keep calm, though. Let's be honest. He was back to his potty mouth toward his engineer, but can't take it away from him. He absolutely won the race. So let's get into our winners and losers. So our first winner, not Verstappen, but he may or may not be there. Check out this guy, Logan Sargeant. I mean, this poor guy, he has been absolutely hammered. He's been ruined in the press, ruined on social media, ruined by Formula One fans. And he has now, thanks to that disqualification, he's now got his first Formula One points by finishing a magnificent 10th. I mean, bear in mind, this guy, qualifying? He was last, wasn't he? He was absolutely nowhere, but he made it to the race. He didn't go out like he has done in the past. So I would like to say a massive congratulations to Logan Sargeant, looking really, really happy there. Well done, Mr. Sargeant. You, I think, fully deserve that. People getting DQ'd. So let's look at our first loser. It's going to be one of two, really. There we go. Poor old Mercedes. What were you thinking? Now, not only did they have the strategy to win the race, not only, I think, with Verstappen's braking issue, did they have the car to win the race. I know it's not all Toto's fault, but hey, he represents the team. They didn't do very well, did they? They could have won the race. They ended up, in hindsight, pitting Hamilton too late. Verstappen got the lead, and you have to wonder, I know, if is F1 spelled backwards, according to Murray Walker. And I completely agree. They could have potentially won the race, but they didn't, did they? Sad times. He came within 2.2 seconds, did Hamilton, before obviously being DQ'd. So, yeah, Mercedes, definitely one of the losers there. And he can join, obviously, poor old Lewis Hamilton. I imagine he's absolutely perplexed as to, goodness me, he's done his best race, I think, of the year, potentially winning it, but for being DQ'd and that Mercedes strategy. Now, you imagine, had he won the race and then he was DQ'd, oh my gosh, goodness me, social media would have gone absolutely crazier than it is now. Who is the other loser, though? Well, it's unfortunately this guy and the whole of the Ferrari team. I don't think we can blame Leclerc too much, but I basically haven't got a picture in time of any of the other Ferrari team members. But Leclerc, a really bad strategy from pole to, I think, essentially was 6th or something, and then being DQ'd. What more can you say? I don't know. A bad strategy. Now, Leclerc kind of has to take some of the blame, I think, simply because he is the Ferrari driver. Surely he can turn around and go, no, I'm not doing that strategy. And we've heard Carlos Sainz say that a few times and almost dictate the strategy, but we haven't seen Leclerc. This guy's got bags of talent. He potentially could win a championship. Yes, he does make mistakes, but I mean, and you also have to think he hasn't had as much experience as Max Verstappen. We have to remember Verstappen came around a lot. You know, Leclerc was still an F2 when Verstappen was in an F1. So yeah, I just feel really, really sorry for him. But definitely one of the other losers of the race, unfortunately. But number 5, I mean, this guy, Max Verstappen, what can you say? this was probably one of, other than Singapore, in terms of wins, this was his hardest win of the year so far. And it wasn't easy for him. Yes, he does have the fastest car. He started 6th. Yes, he is a really, really fast car. But he still really had to win the race. He had that brake issue. You could hear the frustration. You could hear the pressure. Well, the cracks were starting to show. But he held it together, despite the braking issues, to win the United States Grand Prix. So, fair play to Verstappen. I can't argue with that at all. But let's get into that result here on Formula1.com. So, that's obviously qualifying. We got Leclerc, Norris, Hamilton, and, well, out of that top 3, only 2 of them weren't DQ'd, and that was obviously Lando Norris. But when we get into the results, we've got Verstappen winning, Hamilton obviously being disqualified, Norris in 2nd. I mean, nice job. The only issue I have with Norris is when Verstappen went to pass him, he basically let him through far too easily. It was like, okay then, here we go. And then raced him. Verstappen, yes, I don't know whether it was Verstappen just doing like a send it and dive and seeing what happened, but it was quite obvious he left the door wide open. And this is one of the issues I've got with Norris. Once again, like Leclerc, bags and bags of talent, but I can't help but feel he is kind of like a Jensen Button, too nice sometimes on the racetrack, letting people through. Because I can't help but feel, had that been a Hamilton, even a Piastri maybe, or a Russell, for example, or another Verstappen on a Verstappen, I don't think they would have given up that easily, would they? I mean, look at Kevin Magnussen, for example. He don't take no rubbish, does he? He'd have tried in that position, but there we go. Ultimately, 3rd Sainz, solid race there, but I think he was definitely helped by, Leclerc. He beat Leclerc, but that's because of Ferrari's absolutely shocking strategy, which we'll get into in a bit. Russell 5th, a really average weekend. Now, yes, I know his car was not scrutinised, but we've gone into that in another video. But he did have a different setup to Hamilton, and whatever, I don't know, he just kind of seemed a bit out of sort this weekend, where him and Hamilton have been so close, a lot of the time since the summer break. But this race, it just, I don't know, fell away from him. We can't all have perfect weekends. But there we go. So Gasly 6th, Stroll 7th. I tell you what, he was nearly another winner, really, had it not been for the Mercedes DQ, he was going to be a winner. I mean, he started in the pit lane. He finished 7th. He deserves a massive happy face as well. Retrospectively, maybe I should have put him in the happiness. But Stroll, scoring points, fantastic. Well done, Lance Stroll. Especially kind of like Logan Sargent, after all that pressure. Brilliant. Tsunoda 8th. Well done, Mr. Tsunoda. Albon 9th. Well done, Williams. 9th and 10th for Alex Albon and Logan Sargent. Fantastic. I'm so happy. The first American, I think in 30 years, they were saying, since Michael Andretti at Monza when he got a podium and then he was let go. But yeah, Hulkenberg 11th. Bottas 12th. Zhou 13th. Hulkenberg, the Haas did all right. It would have been nice for them to score a point. In effect, he finished, 11th, 13th on the track. What has happened to the Haas upgrades? They, hopefully in Mexico, we've got practice 1 and 2 and 3, so hopefully they sort that out. 15th, Ricciardo, average, but I think a lot of that was also down to a bad strategy. Alonso, Piastri and Ocon didn't finish. So, and additional note, Tsunoda scored an additional point for setting the fastest lap. And Albon received a 5-second penalty for track infringements. And obviously Hamilton and Leclerc were disqualified. Oh dear. So, on to motorsport.com, where, Ferrari have got to come out and they admit Leclerc's US strategy was a mistake. It was quite obvious it was going to be a mistake. And once again, Ferrari have blundered again. Not as much as 2022, let's be fair. But their team principal, Fred Vassar, he admitted that the Maranello outfit made a mistake. So, the Monegasque driver, he started from pole. He lost out early to both Norris and Hamilton, and he was the only driver in the field to do a one-stop. It looked at some point that Hamilton was going to do a one-stop, but I think the team noticed quite early on, and luckily that was not going to work. And at that point, I think they'd potentially lost any chance of winning the race, but they brought Hamilton in to help secure that P2. But in relation to Leclerc, he eventually slipped back to that 6th place, although that became academic when he was disqualified. So, meanwhile, from 4th on the grid, his teammate Sainz followed the rest of the field and stopping twice on his way to an initial fourth place in sight of Norris. That obviously became 3rd. Now, speaking before the DQs changed, Vasseur conceded that the team had got it wrong with Leclerc. Vasseur, Ferrari's boss, said, "Clearly we have mixed feelings." He said, when asked about the race, he said, "Because on one side of the garage with Carlos, we did pretty well. Finishing P4, we finished 2 or 3 seconds behind Norris, and I think everything went well. Now, with Charles, who was 10 seconds in front of Carlos after 12 laps, we committed for one stop, and it was not the good choice. It's obvious." I mean, yeah, it was obvious. Oh, Ferrari. Probably the issue is that we didn't have a clear picture about this before the race. We were a bit hesitating, and he was a bit hesitating into the first stint, pushing or not pushing, and we made a mistake. It was not clear before the race, as you can imagine. We had the 2 options. In terms of numbers, it was very, very close. I think where we made the mistake is that we anticipated that the field would be 50-50, and it was not at all. And Vasseur admitted the team expected others to put only once. He said, "I think that Hamilton was not too far away to do a one-stop. Russell, I think, went for one stop clearly, but as he was the last of the group, it's much easier to change if you're last. And when you're in the same strategy as others, it's better to change and to take risks." Vasseur also stressed that other drivers pitting twice actually made life harder for Leclerc. He went on to say, "It's not just a matter of tenths of seconds on the tyres, it's a matter of what the others are doing also," he said, because that was even more difficult with Charles, was that everybody committed for the 2 stops. "It means that you have much more traffic around you because it's not that everybody's doing the same race as you," he says, "and you have a clean race as you are not in the sequence, the guys are overtaking you 1 or 2 times. So, oh dear. But here we go. Sky, let's address those boos, shall we, for Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen, boos for Red Bull are like water off a duck's back, says Christian Horner after the US Grand Prix. Max Verstappen picked up a hard-fought 50th win of his career, and Christian Horner has described any booing for Max as water off a duck's back after he was jeered by fans at the United States Grand Prix. Now, Verstappen, as we know, took a brilliant 50th win to go 1 behind Alain Prost, who is 4th on the all-time winners' rankings, and his 3rd consecutive victory at the Circuit of Americas. However, he was booed as he lifted his trophy up by some of the spectators in Austin, a venue where, as we know, Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate, has got strong support from Mexico. Now, asked about the booing ahead of this week's Mexican Grand Prix, Horner said, "I don't think Max is going to get the warmest reception in Mexico, but that's water off a duck's back. One year you are the villain, the next year you are the hero." It was far from an easy race for Verstappen as he nursed a brake issue from the opening lap and crossed the line only 2.2 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton, who was obviously DQ'd. Verstappen was obviously still able to make big moves onto Leclerc and Lando, and ultimately he won. So, as we know, the boos. Let's address these boos. Okay. Some people have been saying, quite rightly, that you shouldn't boo. It's disrespectful. I think, yeah, it is. It's disrespectful. It's a sporting contest. I get it, where people are saying they're disrespectful. On the other side, you've got people that have maybe paid hundreds of pounds or dollars to attend a Grand Prix in the United States or the UK or anywhere. And you could argue that, I guess, as long as it's not offensive, it is a free country. People can exercise their free speech and they can boo. And I completely understand that if they want to boo. Morally, it might not be very nice, but I guess it is everyone's right to do that. I mean, you see it at soccer. If you go to wrestling contest, you see it there where it's kind of like more encouraged because, you know, it's more of like a show. But yeah, so the boos, morally, yeah, they could be questioned, but I think everyone has a right to boo if they really want to. And it's one of those unfortunate things. You could make an argument because of obviously Abu Dhabi 2021 and the cost cap. Especially last year, there was quite a lot of boos for Red Bull and Max Verstappen and cheers for a lot of the other drivers. That potentially could be the reason why. Social media could be another one, but I don't think it's other than I said it is a moral dilemma. I think it's slightly unfair to turn around and go, "You can't boo, how dare you," though. Because these people have paid for their tickets. Once again, I think it's definitely more of a moral issue. But as long as it's not offensive, it's a free country. People are allowed to exercise to, you know, within certain parameters. Obviously, free speech. So, but There we go. That's pretty much our rundown. So let's quickly remind ourselves of the winners and losers. Yes, Toto Wolff, boss of the Mercedes team. Oh, that strategy and that DQ. What were you thinking? And also, I mean, poor old Lewis Hamilton. He could have won the race. Bad strategy, and then DQ'd. I think he's just more surprised than anything else. Poor Lewis. But also, equally as surprised as Lewis, I think poor old Charles Leclerc, the worst strategy, I think, of the weekend, pretty much, and a DQ. But let's end it with some hope. Well done. 50th Grand Prix win. Max Verstappen winning despite those brake issues and starting 6th. It was, for the first time in a while, that was not an easy win, was it? But wonders of wonders, Logan Sargent, the first American to score points in 30 years since Michael Andretti, starting at the back. Well done, Logan Sargent. This is the Hot Lap. That's been your winners and losers. Thank you very much. We will be with you next time. I imagine we'll be doing the F1 tier list and any other news and fallout that happens. Anyway, like and subscribe. Thank you so much for your comments. I'll try and get to every one of them. If you've made it to the end, you're an F1 champion. If you've subscribed, definitely you're a multiple world champion, aren't you? You've got to be a multiple world champion in my eyes. Thank you very much. Just watching it is more than enough. Gives me a massive smile. Thank you, and I'll speak to you next time. We will on the Hot Lap.